It's time for Michigan's newest sports talk show, Mitten Madness.
And here he goes. Defense win championship.
Michigan sports talk from here in Battle Creek. The latest stories, the biggest games, all across the Mitten State.
That's not something to play with.
Streaming live and on demand on the 95.3 WBCK app. Here are your hosts, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes.
Welcome into Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Happy Saturday morning. Da'Jzon Hughes back here to talk more sports in Michigan with you, letting you know all the sports madness happening right here in the Mitten. It is yet another week, and we're going to dive back into those red-hot Detroit Tigers and how well they have been playing all year. As, you know, checks notes, they are still the best team in baseball. So, obviously, we'll talk about the success happening right down the road on I-94 at Comerica Park. We're also going to dive into the college football schedule again, looking at some of the days and times that have been released and where these games will be streaming / broadcasted on television for viewing pleasure, as obviously a bunch of those will be here on WBCK as well. And then we're going to find something else to talk about. We may dabble into the NBA Finals for that final segment before we get into our picks for the weekend. But as always, letting you know how I'm feeling. I'm feeling great. Had another great week. Worked hard this week. And it's another week for me to relax before, we get into summer lacrosse, which starts on Monday. The Tigers are absolutely fantastic, and professional lacrosse starts this weekend. Actually, it starts, Friday night, as I record on Friday nights, or Friday during the day. So I'm excited to, get into some professional lacrosse later today as well. But now that we've gotten through the, obligatory and mandatory check-in, let's check in on these Detroit Tigers. They have been unreal so far this year. The Detroit Tigers currently sit at 37-20, which gives them a 6-game lead in the AL Central over both the Cleveland Guardians and Minnesota Twins, who are 30-25 each, and the Kansas City Royals, who are 30-27. Tigers have a 7-game lead over them in the division, who they also happen to play this weekend. We'll dive into that series in just a moment before talking about the White Sox, who are sitting at 18-38, 18.5 games behind the Tigers, who they play in their early week series starting on Monday. Looking at the rest of the American League, the Yankees are coming in right behind the Tigers, just one game, 35-20. Then 3 teams sitting at 30-25 as the Mariners join the Guardians and Twins. And then the Astros are at 30-26, which is right above those Kansas City Royals. The National League on the other side, the Phillies, 36-20, the top of the National League, and only a half game behind the Tigers for the best team in baseball record. And then the Cubs coming in at 35-21, both the Dodgers and Mets 34-22, and those Padres 31-23 to round out the top 5 for the National League. Looking at the overall standings, as mentioned, those Detroit Tigers that we love oh so much are sitting right at the top comfortably at 37-20, plus 84 run differential on the year, a 4-game win streak, 6-4 in their last 10, 16-12 on the road, 21-8 at home. But they do sit at the top of the entire MLB. Obviously, right behind them in that half game is the Phillies. Yankees 1 game behind in 3rd place, and then the Cubs game and a half behind in 4th place. And the Dodgers and Mets both tied for 5th at 2.5 games back from those Tigers at the top of the league. Currently, right now, leading the American League wild card, the Guardians and Twins sitting at 30-25. On the National League, 34-22 Mets and the 31-23 Padres sitting at the top of those wild card standings. Now, time for us to talk more about the team that we like more than the rest. We're talking about the Detroit Tigers. They're coming off an interesting week They did sweep the Giants, but they had just lost their previous 4-game series to the Guardians 3-1 after beating the Cardinals 2-1 in the previous series. I mean, and the Guardians series was tough. A 7-0 loss to open up the series kind of set the momentum. And this series was at home. So that's even more interesting with how well the Tigers have played at home. The last thing I was expecting was a series loss to the Guardians, especially in 3-1 fashion. I think a split here is okay. At least you didn't get swept. You do still grab that one win to keep things moving in a positive direction, but you can't go out and get beat 3-1. Gentlemen's sweep in a 4-game series is never fun. I mean, 3-1 in the second game isn't terrible. 7-5 in that third game, also not bad. The Bats got going in that third game, and then obviously in the fourth, they were definitely going as the Tigers got a 5-0 victory. Checking in on and then they made quick work of the Giants, 3-1 in both the first and second game, and then a 4-3 win in the third game, which turned out to be a pretty solid game, and they were able to pull it out toward the last couple of innings. So just great baseball. They're on a roll right now. They've had multiple 4+ game win streaks this year, which I think is huge to the success and why they're the best team in baseball. But let's check in on those team leaders, which are obviously a big reason behind that. Currently leading the Tigers in batting average, Gleyber Torres, second baseman, wearing 25, has a .285 batting average at the moment. OBP of 388 and a slugging percentage of 430. Home run leader for the Tigers. Any guesses? Same guy it's been all year. Spencer Torkelson, who has been absolutely putting barrel to the bat, all pun intended, with those torpedo bats making their appearance all over the league. He's got 13 of those belters out to the stands. He's put 13 out of the field of play so far this year, but he's only batting at a .238 average. But he does have 40 RBIs, which also leads the team in RBIs as well. When we turn things over to pitching, we see a name that we also expect way too much. The Tariq Skubal earned run average of .249 is best on the team. He does have 5 wins, which is second on the team, and 92 strikeouts, which is also first on the team. Casey Mize has 6 wins to lead the Tigers. He got a .245 ERA, which I'm confused at why that's not the leading ERA. But hey, what do I know about statistics in baseball? But he also has 41 strikeouts. So Casey Mize has done a great job when he's gotten on the mound at getting the Tigers out in front, getting them to a lead, and hanging on to that lead to remain successful on the year. Tigers have an interesting series coming up over this week. They have the Kansas City Royals Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where Mize will be on the mound in Game 1 against Lugo, Skubal on the mound in Game 2 against Wacha, and Montero on the mound in Game 3 against Bubic. Game 1 has an 8:10 tip, first pitch on Friday. Saturday's first pitch later today, 4:10 p.m., and then tomorrow's first pitch, 2:10 p.m. All of these games are going down in Kansas City. I mean, you got to feel good about Mize and Skubal being on the mound to start this series. They both have, 5 and 6 wins, 1 and 2 on the team, respectively, for where they'll be in the rotation. So you have to imagine that the Tigers are going to be able to win this series. Not going to dive too deep into this because I'm going to talk about it later for my picks when we get into that. But the next series they have coming up is a 4-game series with the Chicago White Sox. They're going to play them Monday through Thursday. Monday, 7:40 first pitch, Flaherty on the mound against Cannon. Tuesday, 7:40 first pitch, Job on the mound against Smith. Wednesday, 7:40 first pitch as well. Mize stepping on the mound against Burke. Job will pitch against Smith on Tuesday. And Thursday, 2:10 first pitch, Skubal will be on the mound against Martin. All of those games are also on the road at Guaranteed Rate Field in Chicago, Illinois. I mean, hey, I could see this Tigers 4-game win streak easily stretching to 11. There's a way for them to win all 3 of the games in Kansas City. And if they lose a game to the White Sox, I literally might go insane. The White Sox are eerily close to that worst team in baseball territory. Actually, as a matter of fact, I want to see if I can find out how far along they are at being toward the bottom as I pull up the standings one more time in the entire MLB. They are just above the Colorado Rockies, who are 9-47 and are seriously struggling this year. But the White Sox are not good. So the Tigers should be able to put together 4 wins there. It'll just matter, how they come out of this Kansas City series, which obviously I will dive into later. They're doing the Chicago gauntlet, though, because when they come back home after playing the White Sox, they're going to have the Cubs next weekend, who have also been playing great baseball.
So you see,
it'll be fun.
Good
to
manners are
into
very, very important.
Next
someday, many
week.
years
but
from
I like
now,
that we get
when you're
Mize
grown
and
up, you'll be a
Skubal
man.
twice
And when you
within
are,
these
you should be
week
a gentleman.
series. So that's
Do you
something
want me to go through it one more time?
Obviously,
Yes.
keep
Yes,
in
please.
mind.
Yes, please.
I will be on the lookout for amazing games next week. But the bigger thing here is that they have an opportunity to continue to win. 11-game win streak would be unreal for this Tigers team and really puts them in a place where they almost can't, fail. I don't see a way that they don't continue this success and ride the momentum into some fun series against Chicago, Baltimore, and Cincinnati. If they're able to win those 3 series, we're talking about being eerily close to putting this thing away before the All-Star break, as they have played phenomenal baseball. We're going to talk more about college football and some of these games and when they'll be scheduled and such on the other side of the break. We got more Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Welcome back to Mitten Madness here on 95.3 WBCK. It's time for us to talk about some college football. The schedule has been released, and they have started to unfold where some of these games will be played, what time they will be played, and where they will be broadcasted and streamed for our viewing pleasure. As always, a bunch of those games, Michigan, Michigan State, etc., will be played here on WBCK. So, of course, you know that you'll be able to listen to them as well. When we look at how things are shaping up, we're going to run through the whole season. We're going to do so for both the Michigan State Spartans and the Michigan Wolverines week by week. Starting with week 1, the Michigan State Spartans will host the Western Michigan Broncos at 7 p.m. That game will be played on FS1 at Spartan Stadium in East Lansing. Also in week 1, that game's Friday, August 29th. Saturday, August 30th, 7:30 p.m. on NBC/Peacock. New Mexico and Michigan will play at the Big House. Week 2, things change up for both of these teams. Week 2, Michigan will be on the road at Oklahoma, playing on ABC at 7:30. Michigan State will remain at home. They'll be welcoming in Boston College. They will also be playing at 7:30 on NBC and Peacock. As we move into week 3, Michigan will be back at the Big House. They will be playing at noon this time on the Big Ten Network. They'll be taking on Central Michigan. The Chippewas will try and spoil a homecoming game for the Michigan Wolverines. Youngstown State will be making a trip up to Spartan Stadium. They'll be staying home for the 3rd week in a row. It's a 3:30 kickoff on the Big Ten Network, as the Spartans will try and make it hopefully 3-0 on the year for them, as they have a favorable schedule to start the year, as we talked about last week. In week 4, Michigan State going on the road. They're going as far as possible. This game is still TBD on the time and the TV rights, but it will be played at the Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles, as they'll be taking on the Trojans from USC. Michigan will also be on the road in week 4. They'll be at Nebraska at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, taking on The Cornhuskers, 3:30 p.m. on CBS and Paramount Plus. Moving on to Week 5. Both teams are on a bye in Week 5. How beautiful is that? Nothing to worry about for either one of our teams. The notable game of the week will most likely be Oregon and at Penn State, Beaver Stadium, 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, September 27th on NBC and Peacock. In Week 6, Wisconsin will be heading on over to the Big House. The time is still TBD, and so are the TV rights for that game. Same thing for Michigan State, who will be traveling to Memorial Stadium to take on the Cornhuskers that same week. In Week 7, Michigan will take on USC on the road. TBD on that time and TV rights. UCLA will travel on over to Spartan Stadium to take on the Spartans from Michigan State. That's a noon kickoff. No TV rights have been assigned for that game yet. Either in Week 8, Michigan gets another bye week, which is interesting. But Michigan State will be at Indiana and Bloomington. The time for that game is TBD, as the Hoosiers will try and hold the Spartans at bay. Sorry, looked right over the Michigan game. They'll be welcoming in the Huskies from Washington. The time and TV rights for that game are also TBD, just like the Spartans. Moving into Week 9. It's the game. Well, no, sorry. It's the game for the Spartans. The Spartans are welcoming in the Wolverines to Spartan Stadium. They get to play tons of home games this year, which may be helpful for those guys up in East Lansing. Game and TV rights, or time and TV rights for this game are still TBD, but we do know that the rivalry will be fun to watch, and eyes will be on it. Week 9, Saturday, October 25th. We get into Week 10. Michigan State taking on Minnesota at Huntington Bank Stadium in Minnesota. Time and TV rights TBD. Purdue traveling to the Big House on November 1st, same day. Time and TV rights are TBD as well. Week 11, Michigan State gets another bye week, and it looks like Michigan does as well. Neither one of those teams on the docket for Week 11. When we look at Week 12, Michigan will be at Northwestern. They're playing at Wrigley Field, which we know is a wrinkle for Northwestern as they get their stadium built and replaced over on campus. And then the Michigan State Spartans will welcome in Penn State. There are rumors of that game being played at Ford Field. As of right now, it says Spartan Stadium. Time and TV rights for both of those games are TBD for now. Week 13, Michigan going to be at Maryland in College Park, and Michigan State will be at Iowa, Kinnick Stadium. Time and TV rights for both of those games are TBD. And we know what's happening in Week 14 for the Wolverines. They will be at home against Ohio State. It is the game. It will be at the Big House. A noon kickoff on Fox. I assume that will be big game at noon, big kickoff at noon, whatever it is that they do. I can't remember the exact name right now. Over-under line is already set at 47.5, and the Ohio State Buckeyes are 5.5-point favorites. Michigan State, TBD, they're playing this game at Ford Field. It will be against Maryland. Their TV rights are also TBD for that week as well. Week 15 is, as we know, conference championship week, so we will find out who will be in that game later on in the year. But that's where we know these teams will be playing and when they'll be playing as of now. As we heard, a lot of those games are still TBD, so that's something I will be keeping an eye on and will be pushing that information out as we get it here But when you look at how the schedules fare up, they are playing in a mix of times. They both have primetime games at 7:30 multiple times in the year. They both have those noon starts on Fox/BTN that are going to be huge. And they have some 3:30 slots in there as well. So I think there's a great mix of game times for both fan bases to be able to enjoy and not have to worry about being cramped. Now, what I don't like is there are a couple of times where both of these teams are playing at the same time. To me, I don't like that. I would prefer that these two teams, because they are so close, so many people like both teams, and then so many parts and pieces of these fan bases want to keep up with what is happening on the other side so they can talk smack, so they can evaluate how their team is going to compete against the other, so that they can be prepared for what the game might look like. It is a huge rivalry in this state. Obviously, it's not bigger than Michigan and Ohio State, but Michigan State is a close second, and it means a lot to the people of these two institutions. So to have them playing at the same time so often, I don't like, because it really takes away from them being able to focus on the two teams that they want to focus on the most in the Big Ten. Well, two of the three, because obviously Ohio State's going to be thrown in there as well. I think Michigan State even keeps up with Ohio State at a decent amount. So those are teams that I feel shouldn't be playing at the same time almost ever, so that those fan bases have the opportunity to be able to watch around and do diligent research and be able to have debates. And I think the same can be said for Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, or even Wisconsin. You can throw them in like a 4-team loop. You can even say Northwestern, Purdue, and Indiana are kind of in that circle. You have Maryland and Rutgers who are battling on that west side, and I think you can kind of throw USC and Washington in with them, even though they're so far apart. There are some rivalries within this conference where teams should not be playing at the same time, so that they're able to build those rivalries both on and off the field. But I do think that things are spaced out greatly for these two teams and their fan bases to enjoy what should be a extremely fun season. I do believe that both Michigan and Michigan State have favorable schedules for themselves, and the TV rights will only help. I think the stands will be packed. Michigan State has a huge advantage with how many home games they have. That game in Ford Field will obviously draw tons of eyes and tons of butts and seats, so that should be fun for them as well. I think they have to take advantage of how often they are playing in East Lansing and Spartan Stadium, where they are comfortable, where they know how things are, and they should have that fan base behind them. I think some of the games they played last year that were competitive, and some of the ones that they won, kind of proved to this Michigan State fan base, alumni base, and supporters that they are here and they want to play and they want to be successful. It's just going to be a little bit of a grind. Jonathan Smith is the right coach for the Michigan State Spartans. I think he can turn things around for them and will be able to continue to bring them toward the success that they want to see. Aiden Childs will be huge in that success as well. I think he takes another step forward and has another fantastic year. On the flip side, we kind of know what we're getting with the Michigan Wolverines. The big question mark is Bryce Underwood. How well will he play at quarterback? We really don't know. Time is to tell. We'll find out down the line exactly how good he's going to be. The other thing is, how will they handle the suspension in weeks 3 and 4 of Coach Sharon Moore? Will they be able to have success against Central Michigan and Nebraska without their leader, or will things kind of crumble under them? Either way, I think Michigan has a pretty solid season, and that they're going to find themselves hopefully fighting for a playoff spot. That was a little talk of college football, how we expect things to run, and what those TV schedules are looking like. We're going to be back talking more basketball after the break with more Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK.
Detroit sports fans, Wolverines and Spartans alike, this is your sports show, Mitten Madness, with Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes on 95.3 WBCK.
Welcome back to Mitten Madness here on 95.3 WBCK. It's time for us to talk a little bit about basketball. I mean, basketball was fun here in the state of Michigan this year. Michigan State was right outside the Final Four. So was Michigan, as both of those teams made it to the Sweet 16. Michigan State ended up losing in the Elite Eight to Auburn. Michigan lost to Auburn as well. And then obviously the Detroit Pistons were unbelievable this past season, making it into the playoffs and taking the Knicks to a 6-game series as the Knicks are trying to push their way into the NBA Finals. Can you imagine if the Knicks make it to the NBA Finals or even win the NBA Finals and the Pistons almost beat them in a playoff series and they beat them in the regular season series? The Pistons are here. They're back. They're going to be exciting for years, and they're going to be successful for years, something that all of us in the state of Michigan should be excited about because we've been waiting for over a decade for them to return to this level of success. We haven't seen them be this good since the early 2000s when they had Chauncey Billups, Tyshawn Prince, Rip Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Jason Maxiell, Antonio McDyess, etc., Rodney Stuckey, etc. on that team, and they were great. They were a team that was built on the city and played for the city and loved being in Detroit. The Palace at Auburn Hills was their home, and they treated it like it. I think we're starting to see that with this team as well. The Little Caesars Arena is their home. They love being in Detroit. They love playing for the people of Detroit and the state of Michigan. They don't want to be anywhere else. They're having fun right where they are, and they're excited to be the group that's bringing the Detroit Pistons back to the top of the NBA where they once were. Now switching gears over to what is actually happening in the NBA right now as they do try and find the team that's going to be sitting at the top with the crown. Out in the West Side, things were interesting. We got a 2 7-game series in round one. You had the Nuggets just outlasting the Clippers 4-3. Same thing with Golden State outlasting the Rockets 4-3. OKC swept the Grizzlies in their first round. Minnesota, gentleman's sweep of the Lakers 4-1 in that series. Minnesota also gentleman swept the Warriors 4-1 in their semifinal series. Thunder went a whole 7 with the Nuggets, who were right on the outside of making it back to the conference finals and possibly even the NBA finals. The Thunder just took on the Timberwolves in the conference finals, and gentlemen swept them in 5, 4-1, taking care of business in Game 5 with a 30-point victory to place themselves in the NBA Finals. On the other side, the East has been quite the run. The Cavs came out with a sweep 4-0 of the Heat in round one. Pacers over the Bucks with a gentleman's sweep 4-1. The Knicks get the best of the Pistons, as we mentioned, 4-2. And then the Celtics had a gentleman's sweep of the Magic 4-1. The Knicks were able to outlast the Celtics after a Jason Tatum injury 4-2. The Pacers, gentleman's sweep again of the Cavs 4-1 in that conference finals. They find themselves, or semis, they find themselves back in the conference finals, this time taking on the Knicks, something that hasn't been done since the 90s. And trust me, it has not failed to make us excited. It has not disappointed whatsoever. It has been exactly the fireworks we thought it would be. It has been that rivalry that we remember from the early 90s, as the Pacers currently lead that series 3-2. And Game 6 is on the 31st, so we will 1,000% be picking that game for our picks, as that one may decide if there's a Game 7 and the NBA Finals is between another chance of a 50-50, or if the Pacers will close things out and move on to play the Thunder in the NBA Finals. The Finals will start on Thursday, June 5th at 8:30 p.m. on ABC. They're expected to run until the 22nd, depending on how many games are played in that series. The Pacers currently lead the Knicks 3-2 heading into Game 6 in that series. This has been a phenomenal NBA season. I mean, it's finally the turn of the tide, it truly feels like, in the NBA. We've seen some younger guys start to make their splash. They're kind of on the older side of that younger guy trend now. Trae Young, Luka, Jason Tatum, Brandon Ingram, Devin Booker are all kind of on the older side of being young. The young guys now, even SGA is in that older term. But when you look at it, the young guys are balling. The Chet Holmgrens, the Jalen Williams, the Tyrese Halliburtons. These guys are balling right now. The Anthony Edwards. They're a big reason why the league is the way it is, taking down some of the most notable stars in the league. LeBron James, not around. Why? Anthony Edwards. Stephen Curry, not around. Why? Anthony Edwards. Kevin Durant didn't even make the playoffs. Why? Anthony Edwards, Jalen Green, SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Alperen Sengun. These dudes are the reason why we're not seeing the names we're used to seeing playing in the conference semis, conference finals, the NBA finals, because they're taking over. There's time for a new regimen that's all about skill and agility. These dudes know how to handle the rock. These dudes know the game of basketball. They know their abilities, and they know the abilities of the people across from them. And when you give them a mismatch, they're going to exploit it. They're going to have success. They're going to be, superstars, because that's exactly what they are. They are superstar caliber players who are making it happen game in and game out. There's no surprise that the Thunder are in the NBA Finals this year. They were the best team in the NBA, and it was for a reason, as you can see. They had no problem in their conference finals with a team that looked like, honestly, they could give anyone a run going 4-1 in their first two series. So I'm really looking forward to how the NBA, continues to excel over the next couple of years with the young talent coming in. I would love the Pacers to win this series, the Eastern Conference Finals series, because I would love to see a Thunder Pacers series. I think that would be extremely exciting. I think these are two organizations that deserve it. They've been through a lot. When you think about the Supersonics going over to the Thunder, what that team looked like and how they figured they were going to have success for some time, when you have names like Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Jeremy Lamb, etc., all playing in your building. Paul George has been through that building. Chris Paul has played in that building. You think that you're going to make it somewhere when you got those guys on your squad. It just has not happened for the Thunder yet. The Pacers have had some good squads. Paul George was there as well. Roy Hibbert, Danny Granger, right? And now you got Tyrese Halliburton, and they're just trying to make it where they have not been too many times before. And I think the NBA Finals is well within their grasp this year. And the excitement that could come from a Thunder-Pacers series, it is nothing but young guys and unproven guys who are coming out to show that they deserve to be in the NBA, that they are just as good as the other players in the NBA, that their team is one that is worthy of being celebrated and being a fan of, and that they are going to be in a position where they're the next up, and the NBA is changing because they are the leader of the guard. I love where the NBA is going. Don't think that LeBron, Luka, and some of these other guys are done just yet. They're still playing phenomenal basketball. But we cannot deny that the young guys are here, and they're here to stay. This finals this year, regardless of who goes out of the East, the Knicks or the Pacers, will be exciting. Not going to tip my hat to who I think will win the NBA Finals, but I will say it will be a series. It may even go 7. Should definitely go 6. But it's going to be a matter of who can stop Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and how much confidence they have in themselves. We're going to get into our picks when we come back from break, as we got more Mitten Madness for you on 95.3 WBCK.
95.3 WBCK.
Welcome back to Mitten Madness here on 95.3 WBCK. It's time to get into our picks for the week. Our picks for the week, as you know, are all fun and games, especially now that it's just me. You can join in on the fun, pick the games yourself after hearing me talk about them and getting my picks in, and see how you compete against me. Use the chat feature in the WBCK app and let me know how you're doing week by week. Tons of good things going to be happening all over the sports world this weekend. Last weekend, I did very well. Had another 4-2 week, so I'm 10-2 on the year after just 2 weeks in this new set of segments. So I'm going to look to, continue to have that success like I did against Jacob once upon a time. And as I mentioned, there is so much going on this weekend. We'll start with the Detroit Tigers. We talked a little bit about them earlier in terms of, what their series will look like this weekend. Casey Mize will play game 1, which was technically yesterday as you're listening to this, against Seth Hugo. They're giving the Tigers a 55.1% chance to win this game, as Casey Mize is 6-1 on the year. Lugo just 3-4, 78 degrees at time of first pitch down in Kansas City, Missouri at Kauffman Stadium. We're going to do this whole series. So game 2, as this entire series will be at Kauffman Stadium, 87 degrees at first pitch. Skubal stepping on the mound at 5-2 against Michael Wacha of the Royals, who's 3-4, 66.6% chance for the Tigers to win this game. I mean, you got to know that I'm going to take Skubal to win every single time, even though he's got a couple losses on the year. The dude is unreal when it comes to pitching. And in that third game, Keider Montero, who has had some struggles for the Tigers this year, just 2-1 on the year, a 4.54 ERA, taking on Chris Bubik of the Royals, who's 5-2 on the year. They're giving the Royals a 59.9% chance to win this game. Not sure if we're going to get a sweep in the series. The sweep would only be because the momentum will ride. But as I just said, momentum, it rides. The Tigers have been playing fantastic baseball, currently on a 4-game winning streak. I think they at least pick up 1 to 2 more of those early. Maybe 6-game streak extends to 7. But even if not, 2 games is enough to win the series. So that means I'm taking the Tigers for yet another series win as I look to, see them at the top of the baseball standings for yet another week. That is going to roll us right into our next game of the weekend. And it is in the UFL later today, 3 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Michigan Panthers, who are 6-3, will take on the 4-5 Houston Roughnecks, looking for a chance to solidify the 1 seed in their half of the standings as they get ready for the playoffs in the following week. They're tied right now with the Birmingham Stallions at 6-3. I do believe the Stallions have no, they don't. The Panthers have the tiebreaker over the Stallions. So if they happen to beat the Stallions, or they happen to win and the Stallions lose, there's no problems. But I believe if both teams win, the Panthers get the 1 seed. So all they really have to worry about is winning this game that they have coming up here this weekend. They started the game as 2.5-point favorites, and it still remains there. 41.5 on the over-under line. But as you know, we like to look at the standings and talk about that point differential. Now second in the league at plus 54 are the Panthers, right behind the Battlehawks, who are plus 63 and are 7-2 on the year. The Birmingham Stallions are plus 40. They are on a 1-game win streak, while the Panthers are on a 1-game losing streak. I'm not sure that the streak continues for either one of those teams, but I do have the Panthers deciding to win this game over the Roughnecks and hopefully grabbing the 1 seed in those UFL standings on their side of the bracket. Going into our next pick of the week, this one is going to be Aaron Blanchfield taking on Macy Barber for UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas at the UFC Apex later tonight. This is a women's flyweight main event. The main card starts at 9 p.m. on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Blanchfield, 5'4", 125 pounds, just 26 years of age, 66 inches on the reach at an orthodox fighting stance, while Barber comes in 5'5", 125 pounds as well, 27 years old, 65 inches on the reach and a switch fighter. Blanchfield is 13-2 in her career. Macy Barber 14-2. This is a definition of two fighters that are similar in stature, from the way they fight to the way they stand to the dominance that they've had in their early careers. They're two fighters from the United States of America who are looking to continue their success. This is going to be an all-out war. This is going to be one of those UFC fights that's going to feel like it's to the death, even though it is not. They're going to give it their all. They're going to stand there, box with each other. They're going to grapple, and it's going to be a good time. Blanchfield currently sitting at 250 favorite, while Barber sits at the 200 underdog. They do expect this fight to go the distance, as it is a 225 for distance and a 225 for it going over a round and a half. And both TKO, they're both in the underdogs for KOs and submissions. So this fight is expected to be a while, but I do think Erin Blanchfield has been fantastic in her last couple of fights. I think that success continues. I think she's in one of those mindsets where it's very hard to beat someone who's playing like that. So I'm going to have to give Blanchfield the advantage and give her yet another pick, as I hope she will make me sound smart. Going on back to the baseball diamond, we're going to look at another team that's going to be playing in another series that could have huge implications for how the standings look. Two teams that are near the top of baseball on their in their respective divisions. The Yankees will be taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. This will be played at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. 55.8% chance for the Yankees to win the first game because they have Max Fried on the mound, who is 7-0 on the year with a 1.29 ERA. He's going against Tony Gonsolin. And then in game 2, Will Warren will be on the mound for the Yankees against Landon Knack. Warren 3-2, Knack 2-2. Dodgers a 56.1% chance to win that one. And then you have Ryan Yarbrough, who's 2-0 on the year, going on the mound for the Yankees against Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who is 6-3 on the year. They're giving the Dodgers a 67.4% chance to win. And I'm giving the Dodgers a chance to win this series as well. I think that they have the bats. I think they have the pitching. They have the defense. And they're not the number one team over, or the number 2 team over on the National League side for no reason. They don't get the notoriety that they get for no reason. They don't have people paying way too much money to come to their games for no reason. They play the part, they look the part, and they feel the part. I got the Dodgers beating the Yankees in what will be an electric series. The Dodgers are 19-8 at home, and the Yankees are 17-11 on the road. So both teams play well in the respective environments. So we'll see how things go. But I have the Dodgers leaning out on top of this game. That's going to get us over into the WNBA. Yeah, you heard that right. The WNBA, because, well, they've been exceptional so far this year and in the early season. The WNBA Commissioner's Cup is off and running. The Phoenix Mercury, who are 4-1 so far on the year. They're 0-1 on the road, though. We'll be traveling to Minnesota to take on the Lynx at Target Center on the 3rd, which is later this week, an 8 p.m. tip. They're giving the Lynx a 79.1% chance to win this game. The Mercury, who have Thomas and Sabali, have not been too far from success. I mean, 19.8 points per game for Sabali, while Thomas leads the team in both rebounds and assists at 7.6 and 8.0 respectively. Nafisa Collier obviously doing her thing for the Lynx, as she has been for the last couple of years. 26.8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds. And then Williams leading the team in assists at 6.6. They're 5-0 on a year and 3-0 at home are the Lynx. The Lynx do have a game time decision for Nafisa Collier, but it looks like she's expected to play. Kalia Copper, Natasha Mack are both out for the Phoenix, along with Monique Akua Makani, who is a game-time decision. The Minnesota Lynx have been putting up 86.2 points per game in retrospect to the 80.4 for the Mercury. I think, as y'all know, I like streaks and I like patterns. I think they remain consistent, and I think that the Minnesota Lynx take home yet another win in their season and remain perfect on the year, which gets us over to our last pick of the weekend. It is the New York Knicks making their way into Gainbridge Fieldhouse later tonight at 8 p.m. The Knicks were 24-17 on the road in the regular season. The Pacers 29-11 at home during the year. Pacers have a 58% chance to win this game and close things out. Just 42% chance for the Knicks to fight for Game 7. Pacers won Game 1 by 3. They won Game 2 by 5. They lost Game 3 by 6. Won Game 4 by 9, and then lost Game 5 by 17. So Game 6 will be interesting. As I have said multiple times before, this series has been exciting. It will remain exciting, and I'm going to go with my heart here. I think the Pacers are going to come out on top. I think that they'll close this series out and begin to prepare for what will be a blockbuster NBA Finals series against the Oklahoma City Thunder to see who will be crowned champions of the NBA. Giving you a quick recap of what I've got going for the week. I got the Tigers beating the Royals in a series. The Panthers over the Roughnecks in the UFL. Blanchfield over Barber for UFC night. The Dodgers over the Yankees in their series. The Lynx will take care of the Mercury next week. And then the Pacers will beat the Knicks later tonight to set up their match and date with the Thunder for the NBA Finals. That's another episode of Mitten Madness. We'll see you guys next week right here on 95.3 WBCK.
Join Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Miss the show or want to run it back? Stream Mitten Madness on demand on the WBCK app. Sponsored by AirwayCashforJunkCars.com.